Okay, hey everybody, welcome to a very special episode of On the Wrist from Off the Cuff. Today we have a bit of a premiere and a sneak peek and preview, and even some footage of some behind the scenes and some live event coverage. So a little bit about this particular segment. It's going to be focused around Jack Mason. A little bit about them. They're an American micro brand proudly based out of Dallas, Texas. They were founded by the duo of Peter and Craig. Peter with a background within industrial design and Craig within sales and account management. Both with direct experience within the realm of some of the largest mainstream fashion watch groups. Jack Mason is most known for their popular, well-designed, and overbuilt fashion watches. Yes, overbuilt. While many mainstream fashion brands can be kind of a letdown in the metal, Jack Mason has been a pleasant surprise for its customers, offering solid construction, sapphire crystals, and even Swiss Superluminova BGW9 to a demographic that typically just buys mostly based off of the design aesthetic alone. And now they've really been inspired to expand into the highly competitive premium mechanical micro brand space, shifting the lessons learned from dealing in higher volume aimed at a very broad market into developing a more enthusiast focused product line. And this is kind of the first of that whole piece there. And it's, of course, a traveler's watch. Some key common characteristics in designing when you're looking for a traveler's watch. You're going to want that GMT or world timer functionality, so you're able to track multiple time zones with relative ease. This is the Strat-o-timer GMT in the Americana color scheme. And it's basically Jack Mason's first bold step into the premium market, perfectly timed during this current rush for GMT watches to support folks returning to travel after the last few years of lockdown. So whether it is recreational or professional travel, we're back out there, guys. And I actually did recently travel to Dallas, Texas to meet up with the brand and find out about not just this model, but about where where they all came from and what they're all about as a brand and as a team. And I have to say, I was very pleasantly surprised. So with that said, let's go ahead, zoom the camera out, get this piece in hand, and take a closer look. Okay, guys, Americana is right. Check it out. So Jack Mason, they're definitely really big on being known as the Texas-based micro brand, and I think they're doing a really good job with that. Of course, when they first kind of came out, I definitely saw them as really not targeting the enthusiast market, but I always thought they had really clean and great designs. And then I received this little pin, and kind of the story that came with it at the event was that this was the Airstream representative of them being on that initial grind when they came together to start this brand, and they were out there hustling, and it was just such an awesome story to kind of hear about the trials and tribulations they went through to really kind of change the game, right? They had a background working for, again, some of these large fashion watch groups, whether it be Fossil Group or Movado. And there in those experiences, a lot of the times, essentially the bean counters would reduce some of the design, right, to make things a little bit cheaper. And then you get into, let's say you start getting into retail, and like this brand was at one point, carried at large, really some of the main department stores that you would love to get carried in. I mean, the places you talk about when you want your watch carried at Shark Tank, right? Like you would love to get into those retail spaces. These guys have been there. But part of that, unfortunately, is not really having that much control over your brand after that point. And a lot of it has to do with the way that the buyers actually drive a lot of what styles are displayed and how they're displayed. And honestly, if you go, let's say to a Nordstrom's and you look inside, those cases, a lot of the times it looks like all the same watches with just from different brands. So you kind of will choose your preference in brand, but they are kind of choosing your preference in style because they're telling you what's cool. And of course, that hampered a lot of that creativity. And this was just something that they had and they passed on, along with this cool handkerchief here, and it just, it really resonated with me in terms of their story, and I'm sure they probably will tell it better than I can retell it. But definitely check out their YouTube channel, check out their site resources. They do have a little bit that goes into their background. But yeah, it was exciting. And then I got, of course, a note from another native Texan on here. This is a special urban survival gear TI scribe that is, of course, definitely all about the Americana. So why not? Why not have it here? Also Texas based. So Dallas, actually. So with that little intro, let's get to this awesome little prototype here, guys. So this is not the full production model. This isn't even the full prototype because this prototype doesn't have the quick adjust clasp, but I did get some footage of it. I actually released a reel on my Instagram and a short here on YouTube, but I also did get a little bit of footage, so I'll go ahead and insert that here.
During the development, we were like, you know what, I really want to see what this looks like with a glossy dial. So we're really getting into technical details here, so it sounds super nerdy. But what really makes or breaks a watch, and these guys know, is all about finishing. And finishing meaning what surfaces are polished, what surfaces are brushed, what's the combination between the two, because light hits things differently.
All right, so now that we're back, that clasp is going to be the production clasp, and this one is just one that was, part of these test prototypes where they were really getting a look and feel of how these were going to be. And of course, these are prototypes, so that they're going to be nicer ultimately, right? The tooling was real fresh, everything was newly finished. When you get into production, everything's going to be a little bit nicer, and all the little things that they wanted to tweak will be tweaked. In terms of some of those little tweaks, just so you guys know, apart from the buckles with a toolless on-the-fly micro adjustment system, the lume on the bezel will also be improved, as well as the bezel click tolerance. There is just a hair of play. As you can see here, I can rock it, but not bad. But stuff like that is going to be more dialed in, so that's what I would like to mention. There's also quite a few incentives in terms of if you are interested in this watch. Basically, let me see, quite a few notes here. So these are going to, for the first 500 additional perks and freebies, you're going to get an FKM Rubber Tropic strap. You're going to get a limited edition handmade leather strap, as well as an exclusive 20% off all Jack Mason straps for a year, which is pretty awesome. If you want to check out some of their strap catalog, they've got a pretty diverse layout, and they got some cool stuff. And then you're also going to get a digital print of the original GMT design sketch, plus exclusive access to their upcoming C-Trek 40mm dive watch, which is in development. So that's pretty awesome. If you don't know that much about Jack Mason, that's fine, because you're actually going to, there's so many things that are changing and upgrading and really evolving that it's a good time to kind of get on board. These watches in particular are going to be assembled here in the US and regulated locally as well. And the fact that it features the new class-leading true GMT movement from Miyota with a smooth sweeping 4 Hertz beat rate and an independently adjustable local hour hand, but provides a jump hour feature, is pretty awesome. So on a standard GMT, even Swiss ones, right? I'm not just saying like, hey, versus a Seiko GMT. When you independently jump, you would typically be the GMT hand. Here you can jump the hour hand, which is a feature that I paid up for to get my Grand Seiko GMT, to be able to have this type of feature set. So really awesome to see that here at a really affordable price point. So that is absolutely awesome. And Jack Mason is essentially going to be one of the first few. There are going to be other brands that will eventually have access to this. There are even some that are in production and pre-order right now. But basically, through Jack Mason's relationship with Miyota, they were able to, be able to plan all this out and get everything ready to go now. So it kind of is a cool happenstance that works out for everybody. So these are going to go for just under $1,000 at $9.99 direct. You can get them for pre-order, which should be open by the time this video posts, and then we'll be tracking for a January 2023 delivery. So right now it's the fall, so essentially right there in the beginning of the year, still before winter ends, you could be getting one of these, an even improved version of it, to your door, which is pretty awesome. So that's that window. In terms of the specs here, 41 millimeters in diameter, 13.2 millimeters thick, or 11 and a half without the crystal, 47.2 millimeters lug to lug. This is going to be made in stainless steel, brushed and polished, of course. You're getting that beautiful box domed sapphire crystal there, which just oozes so much personality. I really, really dig that. It's and it also helps break down the case profile visually, because it's not all kind of flowing into one lumpy, bumpy, bubbly affair. It has a couple of different planes, right? So you see the mid case, then you see the bezel, and then you see the crystal. And it's nice that you're not necessarily calculating the crystal into it, because the visual weight you see is more so just here. And then this is separate. But sometimes when you have a sloped bezel and that kind of flows into the crystal, it all kind of becomes one large thing. So nice to see that they really, again, it's just one of those things where they have that design background. They really took a lot into account. This cushion shape, very reminiscent of Seiko, which means it's going to wear really great. And then, of course, this bezel grip, similar to what you would see on like a GMT Master 2. So it's going to have really great tactile engagement. Oh, yes. So you also do have that 48 click bidirectional bezel with that 24-hour sapphire insert, which is great because now you can get it loomed in there, and that's just quite handsome, and it works out and honestly really fits the overall theme that you're seeing here. The movement is an Miyota Automatic True GMT 9075 with a customized rotor, as you can see there, and it works. It does its job. 4 hertz, 28,800 vibrations per hour, 42-hour power reserve, and 24 joules. This is something that even when the Swatch Group makes these types of movements more available, those movements, of course, are going to have a lower beat count. Typically, it's going to be down to about 3.5. I mean, that's even the expensive stuff, guys. That's even Omega. They're going to have a lower beat rate than you're going to get here. So that's something I think that really separates it and makes this movement so exciting. And I like that they didn't just kind of ride that wave. There's also a lot to be excited about, for so many other reasons. I was just like, oh, a watch with that movement, show it to me. And then there was all these other great little features and ornate details and just really well thought out things. I mean, look at this bracelet. They could have went with something a lot plainer. Instead, 7-row, it's like half Jubilee, half beads of rice. It just really captures that classic look, so I really dig that. And of course it blends with the cushion case shape, and it just does it for me. And then you get into this dial, really well proportioned, nice large indices with that inner bevel that catches light. They're just doing things they don't have to do, but it's just really exciting that they still did do that. You also get multi-finishing on the hands, even the paint scheme on there, of course, representing Texas and America. So it's just very, very cool. And this is just one of the variations that are available. Definitely check the links in the description below and follow that as everything develops. So we also do get quick release spring bars on here. So this can be a strap monster, 20 millimeter lugs. another thing that like we always ask for, and when we get it, we should rejoice, because this will be an absolute strap monster as well. And then you also get a deal to get, OEM branded straps as well. So you can get a matching Jack Mason strap, or you can put this on, any range of other straps that you might have that already fit the 20 millimeter range. So with all that said, let's actually get this piece on wrist and see how it wears. All right, guys, as you can see on my 7.5-inch wrist, this just wears beautifully. Even if I get it really up close, and there's gonna be some lens distortion there, it's gonna really make the watch head appear much larger on the wrist. But you can see once I get a little space, and then if I just tighten up the shot here, you'll notice that it is really well centered on my wrist, and that it is really size friendly. Check that out. I really love my slim turtle that I recently got, Prospex diver, and this kind of reminds me again, just a manicured and curated cushion case, what that can do for you. So, and by no means is this like a turtle homage, but it's nice that it can kind of just remind you of those little nuances and things that you like in very classic watches, and you have it here in a watch that just feels new. It feels like a fresh take, but at the same time, it's familiar. It's just a look that I enjoy. They even are working in, kind of like Grand Seiko, how they went through some branding changes to kind of separate their premium line from their standard stuff by putting the GS logo versus it saying Seiko and then Grand Seiko on the lower. Here you're seeing that great Lone Star, of course, representative of Texas, there underneath the 12 o'clock. So really fantastic, and you can see it wears beautifully, nice and flat there, guys, even taking it to different angles. It's a great look, and I have to say that yes, I am quite impressed with the job they did. And it just feels, this doesn't feel like a prototype, to be quite honest. And then even I'm sure what they come out with in January, what they ship, it feels more refined. This feels like the third or fourth iteration of your typical micro brand watch. This feels like after you get a lot of great feedback and, you go back to the drawing board, you tighten things up, I get a little bit more feature rich. And then you have something like this. So it just goes to show, right? As nice as it is to have enthusiast run micro brands, it's nice when the enthusiasts are actually, formally trained when it comes to designing watches. So there's those types of things that they don't have to think about on second and third go around, or worry about, in terms of, hey, is this going to be possible? They're really pushing the envelope here right early on. And, again, this is a newly released movement. So the fact that they were able to design something of this quality, and then of course they have, the connections to have something like this built to this spec and quality in terms of the fit and finish, which is very impressive. You guys know I love micro brands. I have some very expensive ones and I have some cheaper end ones, and there's nothing wrong with the entry level stuff, but this just really sings in terms of the build quality on it. So it's definitely on that higher market, even though this is at $999, it is basically about $1,000. I will say this does not feel out of place at $1,000, and that is even without the movement. The movement makes it a steal. And honestly, probably the other watches you're going to see with these movements will all be charging probably around $900 or more. So this is just, again, this doesn't even have the sweet clasp that I showed you guys earlier. So there's just a lot more there that's pretty exciting. But with that, let's actually get this off the wrist, laid out, charged up for some lume shots, the light transition, and closing thoughts. Okay, let's go ahead and hit the lights here. Yes, as you can see, even this prototype is loomed very nicely. Everything shines. It just looks really clean. And again, this isn't a dedicated dive watch, although it does have those chops with 200 meters of water resistance. This screw down crown, on the fly, quick adjust clasp. I mean, there's a lot there to like. But one thing I really like to do is work in some low light transition, because you're not always going to be out in the middle of a field enjoying direct sunlight, which is what the studio lights are going to do a good job of, trying to render. Honestly, a lot of times you're going to be coming in and out of buildings, walking underneath overhangs, maybe just hanging out underneath the shade of a tree. So it's nice to see what these colors, finishes, and textures all render like in less than optimal lighting. And as you can see, this thing just plays with the light beautifully, and it remains quite legible even in transitional lighting situations. So it doesn't have to be pitch black for you to be able to still see it, and it doesn't have to be fully lit. It's just every different spot is still quite legible, but you will notice there's going to be a bit of a different shift in terms of the colors and the way that they're dancing there. I really do like this deep blue sunray dial. It's more, I'd say it has that more pop to it, to where it's only has a very thin, vibrant stripe of that bright, almost indigo, that's just dancing within a sea of navy there. Very cool. And then, of course, that bezel insert, the navy blue, is very consistent there. The red is very consistent also, not ultra bright, not the gym red, but a really nice, versatile, wearable color tone. And it just strikes those Americana heartstrings in this colorway, and I dig that. We even like to get in some harsh, high contrast lighting, which could typically expose any types of defects. But you're going to see here the polish, the glossiness on those high polish sections, beautifully deep and lustrous, while the brushing is quite uniform because you can see the light gliding over it really nicely. So if anything, this just kind of shows off a bit in terms of, wow, this is a pretty well finished prototype, and eventually we'll have a full production unit to share with you guys, which I'm really excited about. But I did want to get this information out to you guys because at the end of the day, there are so many brands that do these small batch runs of these really highly desirable and really cool watches, and then they all sell out. You're all waiting for the drop, you try to add to the cart, and it's too late. So many brands that are like that. This has that quality, but again, this brand isn't necessarily known for this type of stuff. So I don't think they're just going to make a huge batch and just hope people like it. So what they're going to do is they're going to open up pre-orders. So the pre-orders should be open. So the nice thing is if you order it, they're going to get it made. It's not going to be, hey, we're going to make this many, we're going to put it out, and once they sell out, then we're going to be telling you the next batch is going to be some other time in the unknown future. You can basically get your spot in line right now with a really interesting and cool watch that comes from a brand of really cool guys. The whole team there I was really impressed with, down to even their audio video guys were great, who actually weren't originally watch fanatics, but by working there and just kind of being around the two founders, they really are now really big into watches, and hanging out with them over this past weekend was really great. Just kind of hearing their story. These guys are living the dream, and the nice thing is they're not going backwards. They're not trying to achieve more scale and reduce cost to improve margins. They're past that. They learned those lessons, and now they're looking to just provide an awesome product for people that will appreciate it, that shop for these types of features. So guys, for me, closing thoughts on the wrist: really classic proportions, fits almost any situation. The design really helps it wear in terms of its ergonomics as well as the visual weight. So visually, it's going to be nice to look at and not feel like a big side slab type of watch. And you know who I'm talking about. What brand just does that and doesn't. Here you're getting all the beautiful undercuts and tricks that you would expect, again, from a really smart, seasoned brand and a seasoned designer. In terms of model variants, definitely check the site links in the description for options and availability. And then when I get to, comparable models, there aren't really a lot of true GMTs under 3K. And the ones that eventually do come to market are either going to be using this movement, or they're going to be within the Swatch group and they'll be using some variation of a Powermatic movement. And those movements, although they do have a longer power reserve, also have a lower beat rate. So they're going to have a choppier second-hand sweep by comparison. And also, you can't just get those regulated by a normal watchmaker. There's very special, specific things you have to have done. And this will already come pre-regulated, so you're going to actually get it tighter than the normal Miyota tolerances. So those things you can consider as well. So yeah, I think this just has a really good value proposition there. So for me, the bottom line is I think Jack Mason hit a home run with this release, and they really didn't have to. The movement alone would have made for such an easy layup, and I feel like it's awesome that they still made the Strat-o-timer into something special that doesn't settle for being one of the first affordable true GMTs and instead pushes to be one of the very best. So yeah, I mean, that's probably the best way I can say it and put it. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. If there's any other B-roll footage, I'll tack it on to the end of here. If you guys want to see, a couple of glimpses of their showroom headquarters and that little event that was there, where actually I met a couple of really awesome YouTubers in person, which was great. So big shout out to those guys. And as I see those videos, I'll make sure to link them and share them in my community tab. So let me know what you guys think in the comments below. If you like the video, please do a like. And if you haven't already, please subscribe for more content just like this. Thanks, guys.